Hello, welcome back to the Crypto Winter Survivor. On this channel I'm still reviewing all types of crypto projects, ones I like, ones I don't like, and like in this case with Radix, ones that get suggested to me. So if you do have a project that you would like to have reviewed by me, let me know in the comments and I will consider it. Radix is a DeFi protocol and you can kind of see it as Ethereum but just for DeFi, and they solve a lot of the issues Ethereum is having, or at least they want to solve a lot of the issues. They want to scale without breaking composability, which basically means the way that you can make one transaction while using multiple smart contracts, multiple dApps or platforms, for example. And this is very hard to do with the scaling solutions that, for example, Ethereum is looking at, because they want to do sharding in a way that kind of gives everyone their own blockchain, and it's kind of hard to have these blockchains interact with each other in a single transaction. And Radix has their own way of solving this, and really the way that they are trying to solve this is a bit too complex to cover in this video, because simply put, I barely understand it myself, and it's a lot of technical stuff, and please read their white papers on it, because they can explain it a lot better than I would in a short video. They also have optimistic and pessimistic requests, which basically means that their protocol, they decide whether or not something needs to use multiple smart contracts or not. And if not, it goes pretty much in the optimistic pool and it just goes straight through, and otherwise it goes in the pessimistic pool, and that's for the more complex transactions. Again, look at their white paper. It's a lot better told than and explained than I can here. They also have a component catalog, which basically means that everything that's being built on top of Radix, every source code actually stays in their catalog, which means that anyone else can actually use this code. And then we go to the next step, which is their developer royalty system, and everyone that actually uses this and every transaction that's using this source code will pay a royalty to the developer of this source code. So for example, I would be building a loaning platform, then another loaning platform can actually use my source code and adjust a few things and just go from there. And every loan that gets made on that platform, every transaction that gets made on that platform actually pays me a royalty as a developer. So that's a really cool way to incentivize developers to actually go to Radix, because nowadays if you are a developer on Ethereum, you can basically only make money if you actually also start your own token. And now with Radix you can just provide even the smallest part of a project, the smallest part of a source code, and you would be able to make money from that. They have a team of 21 and their CEO is super active. Is not necessarily a technical guy, but he is very much able to explain everything in great detail. And I think that's really important for a project like this, to have good communication with your followers and your investors. And he is definitely trying to do that. He does podcasts, he does interviews, he does YouTube videos and whatnot. So that's really good. Potential problems, well, it's still all on paper. They have their mainnet launch it's gonna be soon, in a couple of months. It's planned to be launched, and even then, I mean, it is soon, but there's so much stuff that's already built on top of Ethereum. There's so many projects that are looking at Cardano to go there, and Radix still doesn't have a mainnet, so it is pretty far behind on the competition, in my opinion, just based on the fact that Ethereum has first mover advantage, and then a lot of others have second to 30th mover advantage, and then comes Radix. So yeah, it might be too late in that sense, but we will have to see. And also because the mainnet is not live yet, it's we will have to see if everything that they are trying to solve, that they can actually solve it. I will give them a 7 for their project because it does seem very good, and they do seem to address a lot of issues that are very important in the DeFi space. We will just have to wait and see if they can actually deliver. The market, basically the whole DeFi space, obviously, and then smart contracts. But I mean, every blockchain that gets built nowadays has the option to build smart contracts on them. So, I mean, this puts them into the whole wider crypto space. But if we look at some market cap potentials, if Radix would be able to compete with Ethereum on any serious level, we are looking at a 200 billion market cap. And then at the followers of Ethereum, we have Cardano and Polkadot with both approximately 30 billion. So we are definitely looking at some decent gains for Radix if they were to be a serious competitor to these players. And of course, it does need a blockchain. It's all focused on DeFi, so it's very important to be decentralized. I will give them a 9 for their market because it's a very good market to be in crypto, I think, and there's really a lot of potential. Then we get to the competition. Their biggest competitors are Ethereum, Cardano, Polkadot, etc. But then also kind of Binance, because Binance is also trying to get its feet wet in the DeFi space. They're actually doing something called CDeFi, which is like less decentralized than DeFi, but more decentralized than their own exchange, basically. And yeah, I mean, the already a lot of projects are actually now going to Binance and doing their stuff there. So, we will have to see if Radix is in time to get a good portion of the market share. But right now, Binance is definitely a competitor as well. Biggest differences, well, Radix focuses mainly on DeFi, where Ethereum and Cardano are basically just world computers where you can do pretty much whatever you like, gaming and stuff like that. You can build on top of Ethereum. I mean, that's the idea, at least, if they were to scale a lot better than they are doing now. But on Radix, it's not really the idea that people are gonna build games on top of Radix. That's not really where Radix is meant for. It's just focused on DeFi, and their whole blockchain and how everything works is really focused on the DeFi space. They also try to solve for once and for all the blockchain trilemma, which basically means that it's a quote from Vitalik, that you can have scalability and you can have decentralization, but then you don't have security. And basically you can have 2 out of the 3, but you cannot really have 3 at the same time, or at least in the time that he was saying it was the case. And right now it's still the case, because Ethereum does have decentralization, Ethereum does have security, but there's no real scalability as of right now. I mean, if you look at the transaction fees, if you try to do a transaction on, let's say, Uniswap, you would pay like $100 for one swap, which makes no sense for the retail investors, for the small guys. If you just want to invest like $300 into a project, I mean, you're gonna pay a 30% markup. It's just not really doable. So clearly Ethereum is not really working as it should right now. And then also they have their developer ecosystem, like I said before, and this is a pretty big deal in my opinion, because if you incentivize developers to actually build on top of Radix and make it easier for them to actually use other people's code, and then they would get paid for it. But there's a lot of incentives as a developer to build on top of Radix, so that's a pretty big deal in my opinion. Adoption, well, there's no mainnet yet, so there's no adoption either. If there's no mainnet, you cannot really build anything on top of the mainnet. So that's definitely a problem. I mean, Radix is very, very far behind, and I do like how they are trying to be better than their competitors. But like I said before, I mean, if you don't have a mainnet yet, we will have to wait and see if what they promise in their white paper is actually going to be delivered. And yeah, most dApps are already built on top of Ethereum. A lot of dApps are looking at Polkadot, Cardano, whatever. And I don't think a lot of people right now are looking at Radix. But, new developers may come to Radix because of their incentives. Anyway, I will give it a 3 for the competition because it's a very hard space to compete with. It's a lot of the case. It's a lot of the times it's the case in my videos that if there is a very high rating for the market, it's also a low rating for the competition because the potential is super high. If you can look at Ethereum's market cap as a potential, then that's an incredible potential. But you would also have to take over Ethereum or at least compete with it on any serious level to reach such a potential. So it's gonna be very hard, especially if you got in kind of late and if you don't really have too much momentum going for you yet. Token economics, they have a market cap of just over 100 million, circulating supply of over 700 million, according to CoinGecko. It's the only site that I saw that actually tracks it right now. Might be behind a bit, but I mean, for the math, it shouldn't matter too much. Their total supply is 4.4 billion, which gets distributed in several steps. Pretty much anytime that the price over a week rises 5%, 2 cents, 5% will be released. So it's an interesting way of most projects actually choose to release their tokens every 3 months or every half year or whatever, but they actually chose to tie it to the price, which again is interesting, but nonetheless there's going to be a shit ton of inflation coming. They have a maximum supply of 24 billion, 12 of which is going to be purely staking rewards, and then the rest we will see in the next slide, but the rest is going to be other things. So basically anytime the price goes up, the supply goes up as well. Shortly saying, of course it is there, they actually use the simple moving average. So basically if it just spikes in one day and then crashes instantly, that wouldn't count. So you can't actually pump up the price and then get all your tokens and then instantly dump the price. It doesn't work like that. And also there's only one release per 2 weeks, but still, it's gonna be 40 weeks total if the price would rise every 2 weeks, 2 cents. So, it's going to be pretty fast inflationary. But then again, there's going to be less dumps probably than with timed unlocks. I mean, if you have people getting like 25% of their tokens after half a year or after 3 months or whatever, a lot of the times they're going to dump that shit. And in this instance, they have no incentive to actually dump their coins, because then the price is going to drop and it takes longer for their next release to be received. So they have incentive to not dump the price basically. So yeah, that's I think it's a lot better than the timed releases, but still there's so many coins that are going to be released. So it's going to be hard, in my opinion, to get any short-term gains, because every time the price increases, the supply increases as well, and this should compensate for the demand and therefore drive down the price again. And there's going to be 3 million a year staking after the mainnet is launched. So this basically means if you would calculate a whole 12 billion, it's only a couple of percentage, but I mean, it's not going to be, I mean, at the start, it's probably less than 4 billion where we would start with as a supply. So it's going to be almost 10% inflation from staking. But then again, I mean, if you actually do stake the tokens yourself, then it's fine, you know, then this inflation doesn't hit you. So that's, I mean, with Radix, I think it's pretty important to actually do stake your tokens when you have the chance. And here is the full distribution of the coins. And yeah, I mean, like I said before, there's 12 billion in the bottom left for the staking. They have a stable coin reserve, which they may or may not use. If they don't use it, then these 2.5 billion are never going to come onto the market. And yeah, you can just see they have 2.5 billion for the team as well. And everything is basically with the same structured releases that are linked to the price of the token. However, I will give them a 3 for the token economics. I mean, there's just so much inflation coming. If you buy right now at a 700 million supply, I mean, eventually there going to be so much more that there should be quite a bit inflation for that. So, I mean, it's still early days, and it might be a good price at the moment, but still, you know, if the price would be the same and you would calculate all the tokens in existence, it's already a pretty healthy market cap. So the potential in that way is quite a bit less than if you would just look at the circulating supply. But then again, it would be lower if they went for timed releases, or if the tokens that they are gonna release don't have some sort of purpose. It would be a 1 in that case, but now it's, you know, it's still far from a 6 or a 7, because I mean, I would like to see a lot less inflation in the coins I invest in. Token utility, the token is used for the transaction fees, the developer royalties, like I said, and this may incentivize developers to actually use the Radix token over issuing their own token. On Ethereum, it's pretty much impossible to earn anything you build on top of Ethereum unless you actually issue your own token along with it. So this is actually solved on Radix. This is something I kind of came up with on my own. It's not really stated in a white paper or anything like that. So I don't know if they did it for this reason. They probably just did it to incentivize developers to just come onto Radix. But it also, in my opinion, incentivizes developers to actually use the Radix token. And this is, of course, going to drive demand. And that's always good. And then you have staking as well. So I will give them a 9 for the token utility, because there's a lot you can do with Radix. If Radix as a protocol would succeed, then I would see the token succeeding in price as well. Marketing, well, their website is RadixDLT.com. They have 20,000 followers on their Twitter, 10,000 in their Telegram group, 2,000 in their Reddit, their subreddit. They have a YouTube channel where they have 1,500 followers and actually post pretty good content. It's mostly the CEO that actually posts interviews and, you know, just him alone talking and explaining stuff. And it's very useful because, I mean, the general person that, I mean, I've been in crypto for over 4 years, and I didn't understand most of the technical stuff that's in the white paper, basically. I mean, I'm not a developer. I don't have any coding experience. So it's, I mean, from an economic perspective, I understand a lot of the things that they're trying to do, but from a developer perspective, I really don't. So it's nice when their CEO actually explains it a bit better than, you know, than their white paper can, I guess. I mean, their CEO uses a bit easier language for the average person to come in and see what Radix is really doing or trying to do. They're only on Uniswap, Bitfinex, and Bilexi, and some even smaller exchanges. So this is not so great. I mean, I personally, I mostly use Binance. I do use some other things now and then if needed, but I know a lot of people that just use Binance, and whenever I tell them about a token, they're like, yeah, but is it on Binance? No. Oh, okay, then never mind, I will look for something else. And then even though they are missing a lot of value, of course, potential investments and stuff like that if you're just looking at Binance, but at the same time, Radix is actually gonna lose a lot of investors by not being on the bigger exchanges. So this is something that I consider to be marketing as well. YouTube creators, well, there's some coverage, but not a lot, and most of it is sponsored, which always, I mean, it's all fair for Radix to sponsor someone to make a video about it. That's nothing bad about that. However, I would like to see more content from people that actually kind of can speak a bit more honest. I mean, this is obviously not a sponsored video, so I mean, I'm at least gonna be honest about it. I am not gonna be the best person to explain a lot of the technical stuff about Radix, but I can give my honest opinion, and I will give them a lower rating if I think that's needed, and I will give them a higher rating if I think that's deserved as well. So it is pretty important to have someone that's objective instead of being sponsored. I mean, if I was getting 2 Bitcoins from Radix to make a video about it, it's kind of hard for me to give them a bad rating, I would guess. Anyway, I will get them a 7 for it, because especially their CEO is just doing great, in my opinion, and that's very important to have a lot of communication with your followers, and there's a lot of projects that don't have this much. Again, I would like to see more honest reviews on YouTube about Radix, but then again, it's pretty early days, so this may increase over time. Price action, well, it dumped a bit after the ICO, but it recovered now, and so basically nothing much happened, and there's still, from a price perspective, there's still quite some room to grow. I gave them a 7 for the project, a 9 for the market, a 3 for the competition, a 3 for the token economics, a 9 for the utility, and a 7 for the marketing, which all comes together to a 6.3, which is definitely it may seem low to some people. I sometimes get reactions to videos that I give someone a project like a 7, and they're like, this is way too low. But I mean, if you just look at how the rating system works, if you score low on one of the points, then you're not gonna make a 9 anymore. It's pretty much math 101. So a 6.3 is, in my opinion, still a pretty good rating, and I personally invested a little bit in Radix. However, I think it's a pretty long shot, and also kind of a longer term investment, and I would definitely look to stake my tokens once the mainnet is live. Thank you all for watching. Check the show notes for their white papers and all that stuff, and let me know what you think about Radix. Let me also know if you have a project yourself you want reviewed, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. And thanks for watching.